This conference will now be recorded.
And as I said, I'm Bobby Fisher, and I'm excited to bring this training class. We have a series of 5 webinars that I want to show you briefly, but I'm going to start out today and just give you, what are our goals today. And I want to introduce you first, as I've done in previous webinars. I'd like to introduce you all to our IronCAD team, the IronCAD USA team. And we really have some good experts on our team that can help you deliver results. Number 2, the whole concept of this particular course is, the idea that we're going to make our design life easy. And that's, more than anything else, how can I help make your life easier, and how can IronCAD help do that? So I hope to get into some details there that will help you. We will spend some time today later, so about an hour in, tips and tricks and some more advanced ideas and things that we can look at that are really tips and guaranteed to increase your design productivity. For those of you that have attended previous webinars, there may be a little bit of repetition, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum. And then finally, we'll talk about how we can help make this happen for you and how you can get additional training or help if you need that. So with no further ado, those of you who've seen the webinar yesterday that attended, I'll go over this quite quickly. I'm Bobby Fisher. I live down in California. We have Joe Brower with us from TechNet in Washington, helping to cover the Western Coast and Canada. We have Eureka Tech, Igor Feda, who's up in Minneapolis, who's more than willing to help everyone. And Matt's going to be joining us a little bit later down in Tennessee. So, and of course, we have Blake with us, who is helping will be helping me to answer some of your questions from the IronCAD corporate office. So let's start up right away with, the very beginning. Now, some of you, of course, have already set up IronCAD. Some of you have been using it for years, but I learned something interesting yesterday in a webinar. I got a call from someone who said, Bobby, I've been using this product almost since the beginning in 1998, and I can't believe it. I learned something new. So every time I see this product, I'm learning new things. So what I really want you to be able to do is see, bear with me, look at it and see what happens, but I think you'll learn some really good things. So let's jump directly into the workspace and why it's called the scene. So remembering that IronCAD was first released as Trispectives, it was a graphic design package. All right. And when you start up with IronCAD, you see this screen. So I want to just explore that with you a little bit. And here it is, and this is live, and I hope that you're seeing this well on your computers. And I want to talk a little bit about this because a number of people have asked, what are all the different things here? There are a number of resources and some learning information that you can get from here. So I would recommend that you explore some of the training, some getting started guides. There's some excellent resources that are available to you. But I want to draw your attention to some of the things that are up here. Obviously, if I want to draw in a 3D world, I'm going to go directly into the 3D scene here. And, I'll be drawing a lot on this here. And by the way, that's another thing that if you folks need to ask me a question and I can give you drawing tools so that you can point at things directly as we go through the webinar this morning. But I guess for me, one of the most important things that I had to learn, I'm going to be sharing some of my learning, is that when I started up, this default template, and that's something that's, I believe, very important for you all. I have it unticked right now because I want to be able to actually show, and so, what I'm showing you is this area down here. The reason I like to really highlight that so people can see that if that's unticked, you're going to get the following screen. So let me just erase all that, come back here. And the following scene, I ask for this, what it will do is it'll bring up a secondary window, as you're seeing here. And that secondary form allows me to select any of these that I would want. Now, we're going to talk about how you can create your own um, default scene in IronCAD so that you can really set it up properly. So I'm going to come in and just say, I'm going to explore a couple of these because I think it's vital for you to see what's here for those of you who haven't. If you actually make a mistake, and I'm going to be talking about, making a mistake and doing something that you didn't quite want to do, and, do I have to start over again? So I want to show you these ideas right from the start, that if I come in and say, gosh, I want to pick up, a white or my Bobby scene, I'm going to grab that because that was something that I set up for myself. I liked the way my parts looked when I made it. I liked the gray background. And the first thing I notice is that, and this is a question that I get a lot, and I'm going to be helping folks, as I see questions down here, down at the bottom of the, it'll show you what the default units are that you just chose. And a lot of people say, oh gosh, I didn't want to do that. And they cancel this scene and they go to another one saying, because I want it to be in metric or I want it to be an inch. And so what I want you to understand, at any point, you can, of course, if this is not correct and you don't want to be in inches, you simply come up to what's called the common tab. The common tab is things that are common to all of the, so do I want the scene browser on or off, that kind of thing. I can turn it on or off this way. I can look at the catalog browser and turn that on or off from this location. All right. And I'll be talking about setting this up, but more importantly, if we look over up here and see, this is where I can actually set up the different, if I wanted to right now, I come in and say, no, I didn't want to be in inches. I want to be in millimeters. And do I want in radians or degrees? Do I want to measure mass in pounds or kilograms? If I'm in millimeters, I'd probably change to kilograms. So, anything that I'm creating at this stage, of course, will be in a millimeter. If I want to look at this and see, yep, 25.4, and it's showing me these different, the different values that I've got. So that's the first thing that I want to get at, is that as we work on this scene, it's kind of neat. How is it set up? And so I really want to explore a little bit. And as I said before, if you ever want to stop me and say, Bobby, I don't quite get what you're doing, just go ahead and do that. But you can, of course, set this up any way you want. And, the first thing that people talk about is they talk about moving the catalog browser around. And so I want to make it clear that what you're looking at is a completely configurable interface design. And so what's important is you see these Windows 10 handles. If I make the decision that I would like the catalog browser to be parked in a different location than here, and I've had people ask this question, Bobby, what if, it got unattached? Now what do I do? My catalog browser is floating in space. How do I set it back again? Simply take your cursor, pick next to where this is, and then mouse over. You have to put your actual left cursor, because I'm holding down the left key, back to where it's parked. So you could do that kind of thing. There's lots of choices that you have. So I can dock it or float it. And I can also do this kind of idea where auto hide. I want the maximum amount of space, as you can see here, for my geometry. And then only when I need the catalog browser, when I come over here, will it actually pop up. Well, personally, I don't like it that way, so I'm going to just pin it so it stays open. Now, I have some of my friends who enjoy this in a different location, so I'm going to show you if I wanted to set it up down here, I pop it down at the bottom. And now I have the same kind of, capability where I can look at it and say, all right, well, what do I want to do? I want to be able to go grab a slot, bring that up. And so everything works exactly the same way. And at any point, if I want to reset it and put it somewhere else, I can always come up, lift it up, drop it over here. What I'm saying is we're going to come in and say, no, oh, by the way, a quick little tip. I've now grabbed this and moved it into an open space. Double click moves it right back to where it was. So you know, I can really control how this thing is going to sit on the screen. I'm going to make it longer this way. And now, gosh, I want it dropped back over there. So you have control of that. And remember, if you lose things, if you can't find certain things, I think it's really important to know where the common tab is. It's up here at the top, and to be able to, you know, just find and change these units back and forth. That's important. And I'm going to just go through some of the things in great detail so you can see them. Other important things to recognize, and I'll just be showing you different things as we go along. I'll go into part mode, but by the way, every command, and one of the most important, all of your keyboard commands are quite important, and I'll be showing you some keyboard tips in a moment. But basically, setting up this screen is really, really important, and you'll have the ability to add any kinds of things. Now, I do know, for example, the camera views, which are down here, they can also be parked and they can be set up. And Joe, I don't know if you're with me. If you are, you may want to say a few words about the camera.
No, I'm still with you.
Oh, no, not this Joe, Joe Brower. I'm just trying to see if Joe is still on board with us, and if he wanted to comment at all about how he likes to set up the screen. Any comments at all, Joe?
Well, you know, I like the bottom, having the the catalog browser on the bottom and automatically hidden, is because all the titles are there for you to select.
Okay.
Where you go to the bottom, you have to go through a list on the side.
Right. I've got to do this, which is a bit of a pain, and you're quite right. It's quite a long list to have to go through. So that's a good point. Now, what about, Joe? You said the camera views. You like to reset those. So
yeah, if you bring up the camera browser, I think it's called, I like that because that way I can go to the front, the side, and I lock it onto the side. On the side, the left-hand side, I have three. The camera picker, it's called, the Boolean operations, and the 3D dimensioning on the left-hand side.
And how do you can
put any of the little text blocks anywhere you want. If you hit right-click on the upper level of the screen, it'll come up with options.
If I'm coming here, so you're saying here, or where would you get that?
Move your cursor to the top.
Yep.
Right there, right-click. We'll go down one more into the and then if you go to toolbar sets, you can get all of those. A massive variety, and you can customize it. I don't customize too much. I only have, like I said, three of those little.
Which one do you like? The camera picker?
Camera picker, yeah.
So you like that one, and what do you do with that one when you're working with it?
I set it up against the left-hand side there, vertically.
All right. Well, let me do that. So if we're going to set that, so the camera picker. And do I draw it off? What's the right way of doing it? Can you help me with that?
It should drop onto the screen. I don't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, and I'm wondering whether but again, this idea that I set it up, and this is okay. So the toolbar set, and
the camera picker should come out with a little toolbox.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it at all. So that's why I was going to ask you that. Can you do me a favor, Joe? Can you keep a note of that? I just want to make sure as I'm trying some of these things, make a note, because for some reason it's not coming up. And if Blake is here, maybe he could give us some, I want to make sure that, see, I'm looking at all of these different things, what was the other one that you use as well?
I use the 3D dimensions and the Boolean operations.
And the Boolean operations, you like those. And so as I'm looking at this, these are not dropping out the way you would expect them to, right?
That's correct. They should be little dialog boxes that you can pin to the side.
Okay, no worries. Well, we'll come back to that one.
I don't do a lot of customization of IronCAD. It doesn't really need it.
But the fact is you can customize the toolbar, you can customize the menu, you can actually, the keyboard itself. And I haven't done a lot of this. In fact, if I show you something real quick, I'm just gonna open up oh, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna show you all something different that I had yesterday. And
Hey, Bobby?
Yes.
I was gonna just interrupt for a second. Are you using 2 screens?
I am, 3 screens.
So if you went and you selected that toolbar and that camera picker, it's probably showing up on your other screen, and it's a dialog box, and you can drag it over. I just wanted to butt in.
You know what? You're quite right, because I'm seeing I have 3 screens going, and I'm putting things off on a different screen. But let me. Okay.
I think you need another screen, Bobby. I think you need 4 screens.
Thank you. Yeah, because I can't keep track now. So let me just show you something quickly that I think is quite helpful for people. It's a really neat something that I grabbed on from another presentation, and I'd like y'all to see it. It's the keyboard layout, and I'm gonna grab it quickly so we can. Gosh, oh golly, too many pictures here. Was that Blake talking to me a second ago?
Oh, this is Brian J.
Oh, thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. All right, this is the one that I wanted to show you all. So this is kind of a neat thing that I just want to. These are the hotkeys that come preset when you originally get the product. And oh, come back here, you silly little thing. Where'd you go? Sorry, folks. I've got way too many windows open now. Let me grab that. But where are you, you silly little thing? It went down again. I am looking, by the way, on my other screens for the those little guys, but I don't see them. So they're not here. I've lowered everything, but they're not here. So I'll come back to that in a moment. But I do want to share everything that I'm using in this webinar. Every single picture will all be available to you. So if, for example, people do like to see, and I'll bring this over so y'all can see what I'm messing around with. You can understand this was the one. Yeah, too many screens. But this is really important because I had these questions, and this will become more important later, this idea of how these shortcuts actually work. And as I said, I will release all of these to you, but they're really important. And as we talk about optimizing the IronCAD screen, as we're looking at this, remember that any of these shapes that come in, I'll do a quick shape like this: top view, front view, isometric view, and silly things like this. A double click, give me a top view, double click it to the screen. The double click is the middle mouse button. And by the way, somebody, I noticed that whoever helped me, thank you so much. I found these because I've got multiple screens open up. They were actually hidden. These little windows you're looking at now, folks, they were hidden behind my my menu. So they were actually behind the GoToMeeting. But what Joe was getting at is that when we did these, that I can pick them up and actually park them right here because they're useful. And now I've got, let me look at it from here, and I've actually got something which is faster, if you will, and takes up very little space. And I don't know about y'all, but as I got older, I realized that hunting down here and going, oh, I got to get this tiny little thing and press it, it made it difficult to use, because it's and for those of you watching, if I have to find a tiny little button like this all the way down there, that actually takes a lot of time for me, and it's frustrating. And the reason it's frustrating is because it is taking my focus away from what I really want to see. Okay. Oh, David, I see your questions. Let me get to those in a moment. In the chat window, I see what you're asking. But for example, does it support Siemens PMI? Let's get to that. We're going to stay in the first half an hour or so. We're going to stay in very basic mode, and then I promise you we'll come to those more complex questions in a moment. Okay. David, you good with that? Can't hear you, but go ahead and answer anyway if you want. So, working with that, and there's a lot of different things that you can do. And as I said, there's these buttons already. I'm liking the way my system is working because I'm getting a much easier. And if I work with that, and I'm going to show my face again so you can all see me for a moment. Those are tools that you can use if, in fact, you don't have a space ball. I would, and I'm going to lift this up for everyone to see. This is what I use, and you'll actually, today, you'll see me using this Space Pilot. And the reason that I use this is a rather expensive one, but there are Space Pilots you can get. So what's really interesting about the way I work is that I'm going to show this to you as well as I can. In my left hand, I'm holding this Space Pilot, and in my right hand, what I do is I'm holding this mouse. So, you'll see me working, and as I'm working, I almost never, and this is just me, so, it's something that I would recommend to customers is, for me, I can actually be looking at things and moving them around in a very natural way. And as you're seeing, I'm able to come in and very quickly, pick on an edge or something like that and do a quick blend, that type of nonsense, whatever I'm working on. And I'm working in a way that to me is very, very natural. And if do things like this where I'm going to say shell, that just showing you how this is going to work. I'm creating a very simple function because I'm able to control how this thing works at any time. All right, so back to the scene browser, and as I said, I'm just going through these different parts to show you the interface itself. Now, not just the interface. So at this point, remember, it's not just the interface that I'm talking about, but also the way things work and the way the actual objects work. So we're going to spend some time today in drag and drop modeling, but let's talk for a moment about blocks and how they come in. So these features. So I'm going to bring in, give me a quick block there. There's my block. And one of the things that I think people may or may not know is that you can actually determine how things are going to look in the scene. You can determine this. And Joe, would you like to talk a little bit about this? Because as
you're doing fine.
Oh, no problem. Okay, if you want to chime in and you see some, you just come back and tell me. But so, for example, as I'm working, there are certain things that I like to see in the geometry. And although this is a very, some of this for a first-time user can be very daunting. But what I'm really trying to show you is I'm going to try to go to as deep as you want to, or stay fundamental. When you first get the product, every time it comes in, when you're working with this, here's an actual, this is what it looks like as we're working. And by the way, I forgot in inches, so I'm going to go back to inch system. And I can switch at any point, by the way. You notice I was in the middle of the part, and I said, no, switch this part from being an inch part to being metric. And that's about as much time as it takes. And now I'm going to come in here and say, make this 25 millimeter. Oh, wow, I must have had a really, well, because it was inches. So now you see what's happening to me on the screen. I'm having trouble with this. It's too long. Well, here's a quick trick that I like to share with people. Just mouse over this and say, show me the size box. Make it 25 by 25 by 25. So now in one fell swoop, double click, middle mouse button, and I've got it nice on the screen in front of me. But I still don't see how big it is. So when you're setting up your scene, which is what we're looking at now, I have control over everything. And first thing is, well, what do I want to show? Do I want to show my lights, camera, smart motions, attachment points, all these different things that are here? No, I really want to see the size box dimensions so that when I'm working with geometry at any time, it will show, oh, 25 by 25 by 25. Instead of just this one little big fat guy here in the middle, I'm able to see this on any of the things that I bring in anytime. Oh, where are you going, little guy? Oh, you're very small because I started and switched. How big are you? Oh, it's a 1 by, you know, they're on top of each other because it's too small in the metric system. Okay, so I'm dropping these in, but any of these that come in will automatically have this attached to them at any point. So let me get this back again. And this is that double click. And by the way, I'm seeing something out there that I don't like, just click and I'm hitting delete. All right. Now, what else is customizable here? Well, gosh, I don't know. The background. Let me look at the background. Oh, any color that you would want, you know, change the top color, make it white and go ahead and do that. So now I've got a different color background. What other things can I do? Quick tip for people who have never done this before. Every IronCAD installation comes with a texture catalog. So this is rather silly what I'm about to show you, but why not? What if I'm working and I want to have something that shows a wood background? So looks a little bit odd, looks a little bit silly, but I've just created a wood background that allows me to work that way. Nope, undo that. And by the way, all the things I'm doing here can be undone. Any of these backgrounds that you know, I like this idea. I can grab anything. There's a chrome gradient background that works just great for me. So now watch what happens. I want to show you something. Do I want to save changes? Nope. I don't want to save the changes. Go into a new scene now because I want to show you something else. We're going to work in, and I get this question all the time. People say to me, Bobby, you know, one of the things that I want to be able to see is a datum. So here's a datum. Some people like to work this way, especially if you're doing tubing or things like that. Now I've got a datum system that's working here. And the question comes up, what if I don't want to see it? How do I turn it on and off? You know, what if I only want it temporarily? Well, that allows me to show you other, you know, you're all familiar with the top ribbon. These are all the commands that we use. And I don't often go here because the fact is I can find most of what I need in the catalogs. But there's also 3 very, very important areas that I want to show you because it will help you make your design life easy. And that's down here. Okay. So what we've got is this area, and I'm showing that to you so you can really see it. And it takes me a little time because I got to erase all that stuff. So what does that actually mean? Well, these are right now, nothing is selected. And this is a rule I really want you to understand, because when nothing is selected, it's only showing me, oh, these are the options that are available in this scene right now, because nothing's selected, nothing's, and I say, oh, well, what can I, oh, show me the coordinate systems. Oh, I turned them on, show them to me. Now, some of you might have run into the trouble where you're going, well, I did that, and I'm gonna open up a new scene so you can see it and see what happens. This scene is different, and if I say show the coordinate system, see, I'm showing you something because I don't want you all to go back and try this and go, gosh, he just showed this to me and now it's not working. And so what I did is I opened up a new scene and said, show the coordinate systems. And Bobby, why aren't they showing up on the screen? I want to see them. I watched you do it in the webinar. And the reason for that is the following. Over here in the scene browser, the global coordinate system is defined right at the top, right up here. Most of you have probably heard it because you might not need to use it at all. But just so you know, in a current default, this plane is actually set. There's a right mouse button, which by the way brings up another issue I want to talk to you all about. Matthew, if you're listening, this is one of the most important things for you to know. When you're working with IronCAD, the left mouse button, let me just get whoever that is muted for a moment. Joe? Gotcha. So the right mouse button and left mouse button do different things. If I pick up a block and drop it with the left mouse button, it just drops it. If I pick it up with the right mouse button and drop it, it brings up a menu. And folks, that's an important distinction in IronCAD, because every time you activate a right mouse button, it will always bring up a menu. And generally, not generally, actually specifically, it will always bring up a button that is specific, or a menu that is specific to what is highlighted. So at the moment, I'm highlighting just a part. And so the menu that comes up has to do with what is in a part. If I click once more, I go to what's called the Intellishape, and I'll be talking about what that is. And you'll notice, gosh, it changed. The menu changed. If I click again with the left mouse button, it brings up a face. And of course, what I can do with a face changes as well. So you're seeing it's context sensitive, but the same thing is true. The same thing is absolutely true of everywhere in the product. So if I'm over here, and remember, I was really saying, why is my coordinate system not showing up? I'm clicking it over and over again, and it's not showing up. And the reason it isn't is because over here, it's been set, remember, right mouse button, it's been set to hide. So it's hidden when you first open it up, this is set to hide. If I bring it back here and undo that, I'm undoing all these things. In any standard scene now, I can show this coordinate system so I can see where things are sitting. Now, for all of my designers sitting out there and they're going, Bobby, you've told me that I don't need a plane with IronCAD. We don't need it to sketch. You're right. But sometimes for people who have to export to a CAM system for computer-aided manufacturing, it's important to know where things are sitting. So I'm just showing you this idea. And now you'll notice I'm able to control the scene this way. So what I'm really talking to you about is not the coordinate system as such, but it's the fact that you can control all of the things that are happening in this scene. And so everything we're looking at, whether it's the lights, there are the lights that are being used. I only have one camera action, and these are the different lights that are affecting what's happening. And of course, I don't want to get into the details of what the lights are doing and that, but there's a lot here that you can show. There's a lot of information that you can get for the scene. And what's really important is even this idea now. Do you remember before I said you could right click, on this type of thing? I can come in here and I can right click and say, show the handles, show the size box, show the different things here. I have the ability to show what's happening in my scene, show the dimensions. Well, everything that exists here, ladies and gentlemen, everything that exists here also exists over here. And the reason why I point that out is because the subject of this webinar is make my design life easy. And me, I don't like menus covering up my geometry, because when I'm working on complex geometry, I'm thinking about the problems in front of me. I don't want to be floating through this kind of thing. And so I love the idea that, guess what? You don't need to. The properties of anything that you point at will always be over here. And a lot of people don't know this, that the properties of whatever is highlight right now is over on this side of the screen. And you'll notice here, I've got this highlight. So it's in part mode. And this is what I can do with a part. All of these features are what I can do with a part. So the fact is, I could right click and say shell if I wanted to. But the other thing I can do is I can just come in here and say, do this, and the shell will be over here. It's right up here. All the different things that I can do with a part are also here. And in fact, I find it's easier rather than picking through this. Personally, I know that if I'm there, I can just go shell, open up the top, and I'm done. you know, so I shell my part. Oh, shell thickness is a little too thick. So yeah, it's small, so make it 0.1. So I'm actually just having fun working with this, and you can see now anything that I point at. So that's really kind of a neat idea. Show the dimensions. You know, now when I get in, there's my the thickness, whatever I want, make that bigger, smaller. There's the side button. No, I want this to be, there you go. Changing, and I'm actually watching it update live. And the other thing, of course, I can't see it very well, and I don't like that. So sometimes I'll just come in here and drop that, and now I can see it great. And I'm doing this live. And if you feel like you're in your hippie mode, you can also do that, which would drive me crazy. So I'm going to take it off this stream. But that's the first part of our webinar, is really talking about these. And if you're interested in how to actually create your own templates and save those, it'll be my pleasure to show that to you at a later date. I'm going to move on. Anyone who wants to see this, you can contact us and ask questions. Now, there are a number of questions in the chat box that I've got here, and we're going to come back to the. Oh, nicely done, Matthew. Did you get your? I spoke yesterday to Matthew, and he has installed his new mouse. Have you actually installed it and bound the keys yet? Have you learned how to do that?
On my personal laptop, yeah, it was super easy.
Okay, great. Okay, no worries. That's really cool. So let's move on to are there any questions on scene? And, you know, I'll stay here for a moment because I don't want to move off this immediately. The idea was that we spend, oh, who are you? Oh, that's a nice, you go away, I don't need you. So that, you know, the first thing was setting up the scene and looking at how it works. That was the first step in what I wanted to show you. So we can, of course, you know, you can add your own default templates. And as I said, I would show anyone how to do that they want. And now I want to talk more a little bit about, you know, how this actually works. You know, this is a default scene that we've looked at. We have the history tree, and I'm going to talk more about what the history tree is. And, you know, each part has their own history, and this will be clear from drag and drop. And we're going to talk about Intellishapes as well. I'm going to stop here for a moment, and if anyone has a question, I would very much like you to ask it now, and then I will move off the scene part of this and move into the next, where we're actually going to start talking about drag and drop design and what you can do there. So I'll take a quick pause and let everyone grab a cup of coffee, including me. And I'm going to pause the recording so you can feel free to ask a question and be open about it, any question at all, and I'm happy. All right. So
This conference will now be recorded.
So working with geometry, and the question is, with IronCAD, you have 3 design options available to work with geometry. My favorite is drag and drop. And I'm telling you, there's I have designed some absolutely remarkable things with drag and drop. And I know, Joe, how many years have you actually worked with IronCAD?
Since 1998.
Since 98, that's what I thought. And
I was on board when they first released this product as Trispectives, which is a graphic design program. That's why you see it so much different than the mechanical Pro-E type products that have the strict mechanical design. That's why you have a graphics feeling to it. So yeah, it's been really a nice, I've got a lot of hours on it and done a lot of project design too.
Okay, very good. Now, Blake, I don't know if you're here. Blake, are you part of this meeting? Well, I guess not. He didn't make it on board. Okay. Well, what I'm going to say is I'll get started then right away. If anyone has anything else to add to this, I'd be more than happy. But let's move right away into, you know, drag and drop design and talk a little bit about how drag and drop actually works. And, you know, the difference, you know, I don't really want to, you know, my purpose today, folks, is not to get into talking about, you know, the differences between IronCAD and SolidWorks or Solid Edge or anything like that. It's really just to be able to show you how we can work and how we can really make your design life easy. And the very first part of that is to talk about I'm going to just close this up for a moment. Do I have these things? Nope. Yep, don't want to see that. Yep, I'm good. So I'm going to come right back here. I'm in a my third scene, if you will. I'm in inches. And the whole concept of working with these 3D shapes. Now, again, remember that I had given you some ideas, isometric top, front, side view, all of these things were working. Oh, wrong little. All right, I forgot one part from the double click, and I'll show you something interesting again. In 2019, I believe late 2018, one of the newest things that was added was this quick pop-up menu. And the pop-up menu is kind of neat too. There's lots of things you can do with that little pop-up. I have it set right now, so I have it set though that comes under my S key. And it too is a context sensitive little device, because based on what I'm looking at, the pop-up menu, if I'm looking at an IntelliShape, it changes. Because what might I want to do with an IntelliShape? Well, I may want to customize toolbars. I may want to edit the selected feature or edit the cross section or turn on the TriBall. And the idea is here, this really the concept is, I know I can get it as I showed you from over here. Notice the same thing, TriBall, edit the cross section, flip the extrude direction. Oh, can I do that just by touching that? Nope. So back here, I'm going to get into this now, and using that S, oh, I can add ribs. These are all, and this is just this is a high-speed way of getting at how the product works. So drag and drop. Rather than talk about drag and drop, there's all these different shapes. And just for anyone who's new with the product, the idea behind this is that every drag and drop shape is actually based on a sketch. And there's lots that you can do with drag and drop that I want to show you. And so, Matthew, you're new to the system, and I have some new people that are new to the system. So I'm going to show you some of the amazing things that you can do with drag and drop shapes. Of course, we know that once we click once, what's happening? When we click once, just look at anatomy of a shape. I'm going to rename this just by clicking on it and saying, this is my box. I'm going to open it up so you can see how it's been created. The box was created from a block feature that was created from a sketch. And I'm noticing that it's hard to see, so give me a silly background like this. So see that little sketch right back in there? That's the actual sketch that was used to create this block. And by the way, these little handles are directly on the sketch. I'm actually altering the sketch, different than the IntelliShape handles. So the cross section created the block, which became the part called box. And if you want to look at this and think about it a little bit, if I come in here and add something and say I'm going to cut a little shape out of the end here, and I'm just going to leave it. Notice what happened now. I have a box that was created by an initial block, as you can see here, which was created by a cross section, none of which I need to really know. But then I put a whole block or a negative shape into this, and it was also created by a cross section. So I'm going to talk about why this is important in a moment, but all of these different shapes that come in. So I'm going to drop a few in here, as you can see. Every single one of these has an initial sketch that was used to create it. And we'll talk more about drag and drop and how you can create your own. But as you can see, they're coming in. And I'm dragging each of these into a new location. And as I drag them, it's renumbering them, going, oh, this is part 4, this is part 5, this is part 6. Well, you know what? You guys, shift select, go away. I don't want any of you. Double click, come back to the screen. Remember, T for top, right, front, ISO, all of this. Well, what happens when we're working with these shapes? What would actually happen, and I'm going to delete this just simply by highlighting it and getting rid of it. What would happen if I go in and edit the original sketch that was created to do this? And I think this is a really important point that I try to tell people is that, you know what? if this was created by a sketch, and if you're used to using sketches, you know what, you kind of bug me. Give me a background. I'm just going to use a black, just so we can see it better there. Oh, I think my texture is in the way. Hang on. You don't argue with me. I didn't want to save this. Undo until I get rid of I want my texture gone. Anybody got an idea how to get rid of it other than doing what I'm doing? Just like that. See, by the way, again, folks, something to know, parts. When you come into IronCAD, this is something that is set as a default. And I won't move quickly because I want you to be able to control this yourself. Number of undo steps right here. I'm not drawing very well now, but this is something I wanted to know as well. Why aren't there unlimited number of undo steps? Well, obviously that increases file size remarkably, but what I just did is I said, you know, I put a silly scene in there. I didn't actually know how to get rid of the dumb thing. So I just said, back up, get rid of whatever I did. And I can go back 25 steps. You can increase this to any number you want. However, be aware that it will radically increase the memory footprint that IronCAD uses. So if you're using IronCAD on an older computer, set this down a little bit. This also reminds me of something as we're working with parts. Some people have complained, you know, that when I'm working with a part, that it doesn't look very smooth. And it's especially true sometimes if I bring in a cylinder. And let's make this, oh, I don't know, 22. And it's a double click, so there it is. People have often said that if I zoom in on this edge, it can start to look a little bit blocky. You know what I'm saying? And it looks like these lines you're looking at that don't look like a smooth edge. Well, at any time, if I want to make this part, if I want to increase the surface smoothness, the default is set to 60. A lot of people like to say, you know, 100 will make it a little bit better. And this particular part property, this one was created. Let me take a look. Here's the surface smoothness. You notice the 60, and I can take it all the way up and say, okay, go ahead, do that again. And now you may have not have been able to notice this over the internet, but as I did it, this became much smoother. So if you're having some issues there, all of these are the parameters that you can get at that will help make the parts smoother, more beautiful. So back to where I was, I just want to bring in a simple block. And what we're talking about now is, how was this created? Created with a cross section. Folks, simple, highlight the cross section or highlight this and say, edit the cross section. But I'm going to go here and just say, edit this. What is it? Nothing more than a sketch. It really is nothing more than a simple sketch. And I have the ability now to come in and say, gosh, I don't want this sketch to look exactly like this. I actually want it to have this feature. And all I'm doing now, and we're going to have a session on this in a moment. This is called unconstrained sketching. What did I just do? I added something to this. And when I'm finished, guess what? My block feature now has this added to it because I've taken it and I've changed whatever I want this thing to be. And now I still have these handles, kind of nifty that it's showing me, you know, I'm able to create. And before I go too far, I do want to show you something quite marvelous. And that is, I have my own catalog here, and we'll be talking about this idea, but with my catalog, I could simply say, you know what? I really like this, you know, block with extrude or something. I don't know. That's what I like to call it, because I'm going to use this again in a future design job. And now what I'm going to do is, what am I going to do? I'm going to pick up this block with extrude and put it right there. And now anytime I want, I've got a new one that I can use. So at any point, if I'm working with different parts and I, you know, bring in a part and I say, now I want my block with an extrude right there, I've now added that block, you know, to this. And I'll show you more about what I did, because it's kind of fascinating the way it actually worked. This block had the ability to actually become part of this because it was an Intellishape. So it's actually added itself, to this block. It's part, here's a blend block, and the block with extrude is just another feature inside this particular, inside this one, because now, oh, I want it to be blended this way, and now it's part of this. So that's a really kind of neat, a neat capability that I've got, that I can really quickly and easily alter and use this as if it were part of the geometry. And that's as quickly. So this drag and drop idea of creating your own features is really very, very clever. And I've not found it in any other system. So let's actually create a part so you can see how it works. So now, instead of just playing, with what I'm doing, I'm going to come back. I'm going to say, okay, stop these things. I'm going to start completely from scratch, and we're going to go through and create a new part that we're going to take all the way through so that you can see it. I'm going to start out with a 3D scene, and this time I do want it to be an inch scene. So I'm looking at it right now, and I know that this one I've got is inch, so I'm going to use Bobby's scene. Now, why did I like using this one? Well, I'm going to bring out from the simple starter menu, and you may stop me at any time. I'm actually going to just drop a block out here and make it 3 1/8 by 1.5 by 1.5. So I'm going to grab this block, bring it out. Now, some of you who can see this may notice that it's got a bit of a shadow on it down here. I like to know where the 0, 0 is, and this lets me explain something else to y'all. Anyone know where that got dropped? Anybody know that?
At the axis?
Well, if I turn the TriBall on here and say edit the position, it was the first part that got dropped in the scene. And every time it's the first part, it automatically drops it at 0, 0, 0. And I've had this question a lot, folks, so that's why I'm making a note of this, that anytime I start a new scene, whatever it's going to be, there's my new scene. Now, when I drop something, even if I drop this cylinder up over here in the corner, you'll notice I just dropped it over here, but it dropped because it's the first part. And if I bring up my TriBall and I'll show you about that in a moment, it drops everything at 0, 0, 0. So the second part that gets dropped, well, if I drop another part over here, turn off the TriBall, drop another part over here, of course, it's in a different location because I dropped it way up here in space. God knows it's at way over here, wherever it is. And so I'm just saying that it's important for you to realize that when you first start up, that first drop is actually at 0, 0, 0. All right. And I have a little shadow down here because I like to know where the bottom of this is. And, I turn it upside down, the shadow turns on. I can slightly see it. If you're not seeing this over the internet, again, this is where I look at my background or the realistic rendering. And I said, I want to and I challenge you all to play with this because it's really fun. Actually, what you can do here, this idea that here's a simple shadow. No, I want it to be a little darker. And now what you're going to see is when I come back, the shadow is getting darker so I can really see. And there's a lot of different things here for the people that are new that you can play with, like, oh, I want to reflect the part. Okay. And now we see now when y'all will first do this, you may or may not see this over the internet, you'll see a reflection that kind of bugs me. And this is Bobby, it bothers me because what happens is it comes in almost at 1:1. And so you're seeing a very bright reflection. And I'm showing this to you because I don't want you to see it, and I'm not going to attenuate this. And that to me is very confusing because I don't like to see it. And so, I see extra geometry. I actually turn that off, so I'm not looking at it. I've got my simple shadow and go from there. And so I can just see where the part is. So let's draw this part. I'm going to go into the Intellishapes. Now the Intellishapes, I'm going to be talking in detail about what Intellishapes are once I get through this drag and drop. Intellishapes actually have remarkable, absolutely remarkable features. And If I click, and this is something that is important for new users, when a part first comes on the screen, it's just sitting there. As you notice from what I explained over here, we're in just the scene. When I touch the part with the left mouse button, I'm in part mode. It goes blue. It's highlight blue. And because in my scene, I've got it set up this way. I see my blue part. It tells me, here's the part. Well, what do I want this to be? This is going to be my iron, part number 4601. I can put all this in one now if I want, or any of the information, I can change its material. There's lots of information that has to do with the part, including a quick access to the color. I want this to be a green part. There you go. I like that color better. And of course, I can change all of these intensities of the color, or I can use the special feature called Smart Paint, which is a right click, and I can come in and say, gosh, what are the different finishes that I could use? I want to make this shinier, what colors, what transparency, because of course, if I want this to be a transparent part, I can look through it. Nope, I don't want any transparency. Apply that again. I can make reflections. And I'll show you a lot of this as we talk today. So that's what I wanted to show you there. But let's go in now and actually start creating real geometry with this. And, I could show you a really neat trick, but all I'm going to do is, somebody asked me this yesterday, Bobby, if I'm going to create this and I want a rounded end here, how easy is it to create a rounded end? Well, let's actually look at how we would do that. We want to add fillets. There's a number of different ways of blending. Well, you've already seen that if I pick once, I get the part. If I pick twice, I get the Intellishapes, which lets me change the size. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to change the size. So let me go right here now. And I could do these one at a time, by the way. I could drag this way. And I don't know, Blake, if you're on with us now, are you here? Hey, yeah. Joe, will you do me a favor?
What's up?
Oh, there's Blake. Hi, Blake.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, my microphone was having issues earlier.
No problem. Hi, everybody. Blake's on with us. You got about 18 people here. Blake, one of the questions I had earlier, and I'll highlight it for you. Is there any way to make this smaller or actually get rid of that?
No, that's just our default text box. So
okay,
there's no way of doing that.
But is there a way to actually affect the size of it?
From what I know, no.
Okay.
I don't think so. That might be a good ER though. If you.
What's that? Sorry.
If you prefer to have it smaller, it might be a good enhancement request, but.
Oh, no worries. I just wondered. No, I'm just asking because I've had a lot of complaints because there's, and I want to be real open with folks here. This is an open session, ask questions. Where it comes into question is if you're working with little parts, you'll notice now what it's doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's covering up what I need to work with. So I'll put in an enhancement request because I've had a couple of customers say, is there a way to, it's very useful because right now, what I told everybody before is that I need to create this box, and I said I need it to be, and now I'm going to do this. So if I click on that, there's a little, I can click on it this way, which is more intrusive, or do this, which gives me a box right there, say 3.125. Mm-hmm. Then it flips to the next one, which is 1.5. Unfortunately, it's off the screen. Bring it back again. And I want this 1.5 as well, but lost a little focus. So it's here so you can enter information in rather quickly. That's the idea behind it.
Right. Okay? Yeah, that's the entire point is we changed it before. It wasn't it was a smaller text box, but you couldn't do that rapid prototyping with the dimensions.
Right. Gotcha. So again, I'm going back to something I pointed out earlier, is that I'm looking at this box and I wanted to make it 1.5 by 1.5. This is kind of a neat way of working. Mike, I know, Mike Beechler, I know you're listening here. I kind of like having these on because I can double click just on this size, brings up the whole size box here, and I realize that what I've done is 3.125 was supposed to be, you know, the size that this thing was, you know, that I'm making. Kind of neat here. So the question that I've got is, and by the way, every single thing you're looking at is available. All of these lessons are available on one of our IronCAD USA partner sites on the TechNet site. So all of these examples, everything that I'm going over today, every example that I've given you is meticulously detailed on the TechNet site. So if anyone's interested in looking at these examples and going over them again, in addition to the recording, you'll also be able to see them that way. So let's look at this part and see no sketching. I want to actually round this end. So I'm just showing these things to you. All I want to do is come in and I want to have a round end on this like that. How do I do that? Well, it's kind of neat. Come in and I say I can go and search for a command. So I can search up here and say blend edges. But if I'm over here on the add-ins, see, I'm on a different ribbon up here now, and I want to now somehow go and find that, well, I don't see it anymore. I'd have to know that I've got to go, oh, from add-ins, where's the blend? Oh, it's over here on the home, or is it feature? Because if you notice, the blend is right here under the feature. It's over here under the, you know, so it's in different places. Now, I like to work this way, where I say, you know what? I want to put a blend right on that edge. So bang, I get that edge. And what can I do with an edge? Remember that I told you all to keep this up over here. I'm, you know, showing you up on the left-hand side. Well, there's a blend edges command, chamfer edges, or extract this 3D curve for sketching or some other use. Oh, or I could right click right here. And this to me, I think the other thing I could do, by the way, is S. And so as I'm working, and Blake, is there a way for me to drill down directly just to get the edge so I don't have to go pick? Do you know?
I know there's you can use Alt click for feature level. I'm not sure about edges though.
Not edges. Okay, I just wondered, and I'll ask questions as well. So I'm on this edge now, S, I want to blend it, and I want to make this, let me just take a look. I'm going here and make 0.75. So I'm going to go 0.75, bigger, great. And I also want to put one down on the bottom here. And, you know, someone may say, well, would that create, no, creates exactly what I want, a really nice round the way I wanted it. Here's a neat trick that I want to show people that have asked this question. I now know that I want to, you know, I want to create something on this edge here and this back edge that I don't see. So a little trick is this one. Highlight the part, Control E, turn on the edges. That's what Control E does. So now I have my edges turned on. The reason I like to be able to do that is because now, well, what did I do before? Come in, you know, select on this edge. I like right clicking. I could also blend this edge. Yep, 0.75, sure, perfect. Is that what that's supposed to be? Yeah. And same thing, and look now I'm picking through the part and grabbing that edge, okay? Now, for those of you who don't want to use that little trick, the Control E, you know, there's another way of doing that. I'm going to show it to you because, you know, if I wanted to round and I say, okay, I want to blend an edge, I want to do this one and I can't see that other edge, Control Alt Pick. Isn't that interesting? The Control Alt, I'm holding down the Control key and the Alt key, and then I'm picking where I think the edge is. And it says, Bobby, I shot an arrow through that face, okay? So I'll show you again. So I'm coming here. I think the edge is right about there. Control Alt Pick, and it says, oh, there's the edge you want. You don't want that back face, do you? But I saw that back face. This is the face you picked on. No, I want that edge. And now that's another way to get something that's there. And that actually kind of fires an arrow through the part, if you will, because I started, and I'm going to show that to you. It kind of fired an arrow. This was my entry point, and it fired an arrow through there. And everything it saw at that point, it gave to me in a menu box. And I think that's a really kind of neat feature. And so I'd like to show you all these different things that we're working on that, you know, that make my life very easy when I work on parts like this. So up to this point, what have we done? We built a block. We did a blend on one end. We did a blend on the other end. Another question, Blake, for you that I have from a friend of mine. You know, if I were to do something, I'm just going to do something for fun, folks, and I'm going to. This is not part of the presentation, but I want to show it to you. I'm going to highlight this edge right here and say blend. Okay, and if you'll notice what's happened here, I've done this, and I'm going to say, well, that's too big. I'm going to make it 0.125, just a little guy. All right. And I say, great, do that. And I've done this, which is kind of neat. Now, if I highlight this, I get all these. Now, see, they sometimes do this. And that creates a little bit of a difficulty for me. Is there anything that you know of that I can handle here, Blake, to remove, you know, to make these smaller or get rid of, because you notice they've entirely covered up my geometry.
Yeah, no, that's not a current feature I know either.
Okay.
Those text boxes are primarily for people to be zoomed in on a part before.
Okay.
We don't have any automatic scaling or anything like that, or removal. So because each one of those is editable, you can't do it.
Oh, so in other words, I can actually right now come in here if I wanted to and make this 0.25.
Yeah, if you want to.
That would be weird. I don't even know how that would work. But okay, yeah, I'm not doing I get what you're saying. Oh, wow, that's pretty interesting. Wow. I wonder how it did that, but okay. I'm with you. I hear what you're saying. Sorry about that, folks. I'm doing a quick interruption because I just wanted to be able to show, get a lot of questions answered. All right, I'll put in a request for that one. That's cool. All right, so we've been working in what's called a positive shape up to this point, and now I'm going to work in negative shapes. What are negative shapes? Well, I can grab any shape from here, and I'm going to just say put a block in there, and I've just cut out this. And you know, if I want to cut that all the way through, and I cut a hole all the way through the front of the part, or if I just want to drag this all the way through this way, and you see very quickly I've just cut through this part. And this is something that's really fascinating because I found I can draw almost anything. I really can draw almost anything with IronCAD just using these shapes. So I'm going to take a block here, and I'm going to say, you know, this is going to require that I'm going to have, you know, I'm going to drop it right there. This is the block. Now, for those of you who are, yes, go ahead.
If you check the chat, I actually asked you to make a sheet metal box with a pyramid hopper. That might work for this if you want to do that.
You know what I'm going to do, is this Matthew?
Yeah.
Matthew, I will come back to that.
Okay, no problem.
What I'm doing right now, so everyone can see this, because it's kind of important. I want to make sure that what I'm showing you at the moment, you can all get back to. That's what's really important. I want everybody to be able to know that what I've done and what I'm doing here as I'm working on this part is I'm doing it in a way that every single person can come back, and if they want to go to this, you know, our IronCAD USA partner site, you can go to Joe's site and you can actually go through these and see, what did Bobby do? How did he do that? What was it that he, you know, that he actually created? So I'm going through these right now in kind of a measured way so that y'all will have a chance to see how this actually works. Now, and so I'm just going to use these examples. Now, this does allow me to show you something kind of neat, and that is the TriBall. And you know, we had a whole webinar yesterday on the TriBall, and in today's webinar, we are going to review the TriBall because not everybody yesterday was able to see what we've done. So I am going to come back and show you a little bit later. We're actually going to focus on the TriBall, but at the moment, I just want to talk about working with geometry and how we can drag and drop and work with those things, and they'll come in. But for me, I need the TriBall for the moment, and I think what I'm going to do is pick it up and put it over here. I actually want to be able to control where that top edge is, and I'll be showing you how to do this. And now I'm going to pick this up, And you know what? Put it on a point right in the front here. That's where I want it, because I want to be able to, you know, move it down. And in fact, you know what? Take this and I want to place it right between the top of this and the bottom. I want it in the middle. Beautiful. It's exactly where I wanted it. Now reset it to the anchor. Good. And I can now use this part. You know, I'm going to turn the TriBall off. And as you can see, I can now start cutting into this part with impunity and just moving in and cutting away from the geometry. And you know what? I'm not being very careful about how I'm doing this. You'll see what I'm doing. And I'm just able to actually control where this will go using the TriBall. And I've made it a cut this way. And all of the things that I'm doing now, you'll be able to look at. What other examples of negative shapes? A cylinder. This lets me show you something very important for people that are new to IronCAD. IronCAD has a built-in inference engine. And the inference engine means that it infers that it knows what we're doing or what we're thinking. And I'm going to show something to you now. There's the way that this face points. So I want to show you something. When I put a negative shape in, I want to put a hole right in this face. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start out by putting it there. Oh, that hole didn't go in the right way. Why'd that hole go in on this side? Well, it went on this side. Even though I wanted it on this face, it went on that side because this face here was facing more to me than the top face was. See that? So in theory, if this face is facing up towards me, I can do the same drop, and now watch what happens. Now, of course, it knows that it needs to go normal to that top face. So just as you're putting in negative shapes, be aware that the way they drop, it has to do with their anchor, but it infers which way you're going based on which way this face is facing. So if it's looking straight up at me, when I drop this into this point, and by the way, that's another important thing. When I'm dropping geometry, it's finding things. I can drop geometry in space, which doesn't make a lot of sense for a hole, drop it in space. I can drop it anywhere on a surface. Oh, look what it's doing. See this one, it's inferring the normal of that surface. So I'm dropping it where the normals are. But what it also does is it looks for logical points. So this is a logical point. This is the center point. This is the center of that plane. This is the midpoint of that edge. This is the center of that circle. So you can see anywhere along here, I can drop this geometry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, drop it. Make this a, I don't know, a 1/2 inch hole. And now we get into some very interesting ideas that I want to talk to y'all about. So these shapes are really clever. Why? Well, this is an extrude, remember? It's a negative extrude. And I said there were properties over here. Can you all see this little arrow right here? Everything that I'm looking to on the screen is designed to keep your focus on what you're doing, to keep your focus on the geometry at hand. And even though, you know, I don't actually like these guys because they're sort of in my way. So, you know, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say, oh, I can do it right here. Don't show the dimensions, you know. So now if I, by the way, let's get back into that command, just like that. I click on the part, I click on that feature. And the same thing as this, folks. If I touch this, well, Iron 4601, that's the part, but I really want to look at this cylinder. So I have two ways of getting to it. Highlight the part, highlight the cylinder. Now I'm in the Intellishape. The reason why I wanted you to see the Intellishape, it's located here, is because I can drag through material. I can make this a blind hole, you know, if I want to do it that way. I can also say, gosh, I want this hole to go a little bit deeper. Maybe I want it to meet the first surface. Well, where is that first surface? I'll hold my shift key and it finds that. So it now went down to the bottom of the part. Or remember I said inference engine? There's a lot of knowledge built into this product. Remember when we talked early on and I said I like to keep the properties window open? The reason for that is everything I do in IronCAD will be over here. So this is kind of neat. Now I drew your attention to this blue arrow. All right, I'm going to highlight it so everyone can see. This is the blue arrow, and the reason why I want you to pay attention to that is that blue arrow is showing where the extrude starts. So it's saying over here, edit forward end condition. What does that mean? I want to extrude to a distance. Oh, I want this to extrude to exactly 3/8 of an inch. And I enter 3/8 of an inch. I don't have to, do the typing, 0.375. It works it out for me. So that's the way I could do it right from there to a distance. Well, what else can I do? Oh, go to the next face. How many faces do you want to extrude to intersect before completion? 1. Oh, so it only found 1. Okay, I could take this extrude and say extrude to face, and it says which one? This one, and I can. So you see the idea. Yeah, go ahead and finish that. I'm happy with you. Oh, no faces selected. Oh, select this one. Finish. So now you saw it, right? It extruded to that face. If I wanted it to stop short of something. So you're seeing this incredible power that's built into these shapes. And for me, I always use this one because it works. Just go through the whole darn part. I forget how long it was, so now I've been able to bring in a hole, and just to show you all how easy that is from the beginning, I say, okay, get rid of this one. I'm going to just, I don't want that cylinder anymore, delete it. Bring in another cylinder, pop it into position. There it is, make it 0.5. And for those of you who are power users, I usually just right click right there and say, extrude through the part. Another way to work. It's just I happen to be working there. So there's a quick one. Same thing again on the other side. I'm going to bring in a bigger hole so that you can see it and just show, bang, where is it? Put it right here. It highlights that. And what do I want to do? Same idea here, extrude all the way through the part. So just kind of a quick way of getting these all the way through very fast. So there's my very first part. And before I go any further, I want to take this very first part that we've done, and what is it? I'm going to create a quick drawing. And by the way, as I've shown you before, all of these come with drawings complete, so you can actually look at how these different steps we've gone through, and you can also get some great lessons here that you can look at in a moment. But the first thing I'm going to do is just say, okay, I want to create a drawing of this. So I'm going to say, create a new drawing. And it says, all right, well, this is the current part. What do you want to create a drawing of? And if I say, give me a standard view, there's nothing here. Why is there nothing here? Well, the first thing we have to do is we really need to save this part. So I'm going to come up. There's a number of ways of doing this. There's a number of ways of saving the part. I like this little icon up here. Or I can go Control S and save the part. And it says, because it's the first time that I've ever done this, I'm going to come back and I'm going to say, well, I don't want it to save here. This is not my default directory. Oh, because this is a training class, I'm going to come in here. Remember where I'm going, folks. I'm going to look for this key right here, which is the options. All right. For anyone new in this, I hope I'm not driving you crazy with my, I'm waiting for my guys to tell me, stop drawing so much. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say the directories. What is my working directory? No, I want the webinar file, or use last open directory as a work. That's kind of neat too, because then it'll bump around. But no, for me, I'm going to come in here and I happen to know that I actually want to work on my D drive because it's got a lot of room. And I'm going to go into this IronCAD USA. And I want my webinar files to be my working directory. Apply that. And so now when I come to save this little part, okay, looking at it right here, then put it up on the screen. This is the way I want to preview it to look pretty. This is my pretty preview. And so go ahead and save the part. And notice now it's saying this PC, Data D, IronCAD USA, webinar files. What do I want to call it? I don't know. Make my life easy. By the way, I'm for any of you gentlemen that are married, I'm also running a course on Make My Married Life Easy, but that one's really expensive. So moving along, I've saved that now. And when I create a drawing, a single drawing, okay, now the default is saying, all right, Bobby, you've got that. There's your front view. Perfect. Thank you for that. Give me a top, front, and a right view of this. Excellent. And let's just pop this on this here. Good. And we've got and for those of you who are just beginning with the product, you know, these are the default templates that come up. And of course, we can spend some time. If you don't actually want something, you just delete it. You know, I'm just grabbing this stuff, moving it, and saying, oh, I don't want it. I just want this sheet. And the other thing about the sheet is you can just highlight a view like that, pick up this little icon and move it. Now, be aware, you know, I'm trying to move it horizontally or vertically. I can't. It has, because it's a projection of this view. This one, let's talk about this again. Remember, when I first started the webinar, I said that this area, this property area, was important over here. The reason why I think it's really important is because I don't want to have to search through a lot of menus. I find that a little bit difficult. But I know that if I highlight this, same rule applies. Oh, there. Make this a shaded rendering. Good. Perfect. Got that. What else might I want to do? Put in my annotation bar. Hey, Blake. You there?
I'm here. What's up?
How do I get this to stick? I don't want it to be auto hide.
It's auto hiding on you?
Yeah.
So go back to it. Go ahead and click on one of the tabs. I have like some. These are the default. It should automatically stick. Can you right click inside? Oh, go back to it. If you have right click in the background somewhere. There is a hide ribbon panel name.
You don't have to answer right away. Come back to me. I just noticed this is just for me. I noticed it yesterday and I was like, why did that happen? What did I do? And I've had this question from other customers. It's like, something changed. Why did you do that? I don't want it to change.
Also, this is let me take a look.
Okay, cool. It's not an IAE. Hang on just for a second. A couple people. Oh, there we go. I just had to mute a couple of people. Sorry, folks, for the delay. All right. So let me continue on. So of course, annotations. I'm going to go here and do simple things like give me a vertical dimension of this this line and this kind of idea. Give me a dimension from here. Find this point, this quadrant point, and give me that my overall length. Give me my overall. And this is our smart dimensioning command, which allows me to, very quickly get into points, smart dimension. Because what does smart dimension? It recognizes holes, it recognizes diameters, this idea. Okay, yeah, put this hole there. And this is one command that does all of these different things. So I'm able to say, just a single command does all of these different things. It's just a quick way to work. So I have a drawing, and of course, anything that gets changed, anything that gets altered, if I'm making changes to this part, and I've made a change without, changing that, of course, now it comes up and it says, oh, what's going on? Why is this, why is this highlight? Well, if I look at this, it says, okay, the views have changed. Yep, everything's updated. And of course, it's now 3.835. All right. So, and if I go back and make changes to that, it will change as well. So are there questions that I can get from y'all right now before I move on to the next section? I'll take a quick break. I'm going to take a quick break for a coffee. I need some coffee too. And I'm going to stop the recording. And if you want to shout out a question, feel free. Make sure you unmute yourself. I've muted most people because I know.
This conference will now be recorded.
Now, one of the things that I started, and this isn't on a single part because I'm trying to show you the basics of IronCAD in this webinar. So let's talk for a moment about, you've looked at drag and drop, and you've looked at the idea that drag and drop can be used for lots of different things. And before I get off it, I just want to show something. So I use drag and drop to create this little part. And then one of the other questions, and this, Blake, you can help me. I'm gonna answer someone's question right now. So I have this, I'm gonna change the background to white. Okay. And the reason I'm gonna do that, okay. I'm gonna change it to white. So what I have people asking me is they say, Bobby, if I want to annotate this right now, in other words, I want to come in here and I want to just do some very simple PMI. I don't want smart dimensions, but if you wouldn't mind, Blake, could you give me a quick rundown of what, obviously these dimensions in here, what are smart dimensions for?
I guess I'll do it quick. Sure thing. Smart dimensions are great for just doing basic measurements and for parameterizing your parts. I can't really take control of your screen, but if you go to the measurement tool, you can measure things.
I'd be happy to.
Sure, if you can, just give it to me for a couple minutes, I guess.
I'm gonna give you the keyboard and mouse right now.
Sure, great. So measurement tool has a lot of functions in here. Just taking a little bit to load up my screen here, but you can do things like you can measure the lengths of curves, faces, areas. So everything that you do with the measurement tool does not record it, and every time you exit the tool, it will delete any measurements you make. But for smart dimension, you can have these things lock, and then you can also edit them to change your sizes. So if you come in here, you can lock it, and then you can edit and change the size.
Okay.
What happens with that too is you can also use these smart dimensions to create parameters. And there's a little bit of a complicated process, so I'm not going to go over here, but you can create parameters and parameterize your parts and just be able to edit values and expressions inside of here to change your part dimensions and anything else you want to do by using those smart dimensions. Obviously, you can do ranges with them, and anything you do that does lock the dimensions can be used for, say, mechanism mode. So then you can test and you can see how your part would actually react in real life. So that's just another one of the uses of those tools.
Okay.
These ones right here are just, your smart dimensions, but they maybe give you the one you want, like angle or diameter rather than radius or something.
Well, let me, if you don't mind me asking a specific question, I've had some people say, Bobby, I don't want to create a drawing. So I'm going to take the mouse back from you for a moment. And, they're saying, I like what you did. This is a great drawing. Everything's wonderful. What you did is marvelous. And it's great. So whatever you've done, whatever changes you've made, I'm just going to go back to the drawing and fix this one and say, update all views, done. So I just put it back to normal. And then what they say to me is, I just want to send a quick sketch out to the shop. So, what I'm really hoping to do is just take this, and I really just want to be able to put in a quick dimension. Would you use smart dimensions for that, or would you use the PMI?
If you're just trying to send a 3D file to a shop, I would use a PMI.
Which one?
I would use a PMI, but it wouldn't hurt having smart dimensions just to ensure you have the correct dimensions, because you can edit from smart dimension.
So the idea is, if I wanted to just do something that shows me this, and the question is, so what I've had questions from people that this is a little bit difficult to place. So this one went down in that way. Would there be a way? Can you perhaps demonstrate? I don't want to put you on the spot right now, but could you demonstrate a little bit with this just to show how to use some of this so it comes in the right orientation?
I think it's based on the camera orientation when you use these. I haven't used them too often. This is not one of our
right.
They get asked about too often.
Okay.
But yeah, anytime you have 3D models like this, that would generally be sent to a shop, they can view it. So I haven't ever worried about it, so I'm not too familiar with it.
Don't worry. Well, what I'm going to say, rather than put you on the spot, I don't want you to be put on the spot. What I'm saying here is, everything that I'm doing today is going to be, what I'm showing today is kind of the basics. And I truly intend to get to a point of where, in addition to the basics, we're going to have classes on, we're going to have classes on advanced usage of the product. So this is just for beginners, for just giving you some ideas. And then within a month, we're also going to be running advanced courses, and we're also running, Matthew, advanced courses on stuff like sheet metal that are specifically for sheet metal. And we got about 20 people in this webinar. So I'm not going to get into a specific today because it's based at, but you and I actually can explore that kind of thing later down the road.
Bobby?
Sure.
Yes, please.
This is Matt. Sorry to interrupt. Looks like Brian has a question in the chat box.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Can you read that to me? Because my chat box is.
So he says, with smart dimensions, can you link dimensions such as the two holes?
With smart dimensions, no. If you're going to be linking holes together, you would probably just take the feature, link it itself. You could also have it be linked from the catalog too, but linking with smart dimensions, I'm not sure that's a thing. You could use a parameter table on two existing holes and then make those equal, but just by using smart dimensions, no.
Well, let me see if I understand that correctly. What was the actual question, Matt? It was.
So if you want to unmute Brian, maybe he can get a little more in depth as to what he's
Hey, Brian.
asking.
Brian, can you hear me?
I was on mute. Hold on.
No worries.
I got you.
Cool.
Yeah, so on the two cylinders, if you wanted to dimension them and have the one dimension follow the other, you said you could make those equal?
Oh, so you want the size of this one to be linked to the size of this one?
Correct.
Absolutely, of course. Because as Blake said, Blake, do you want to demonstrate that?
Linking them together, I mean, you would have to use the parameter table. I'm not sure that it's really. In order to link existing ones together, you would need to put in some expressions to make the diameter of this hole equal to the diameter of this hole, and that would require the parameter table.
Right.
Unless you just wanted to recreate this hole right here, just by taking this one, linking it over,
again.
And then once you link it over, it'll maintain the same dimensions. I can't.
Let me do that. Let me show that, because that might be part of the answer. But I like what you said.
It would be easier to recreate it than to link it together.
See, Brian, what I was doing is this. I'm going to take this with the right mouse button, okay, and put it right here at the center, okay? I'm linking it. And that means, so, whatever it is, I don't care. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. And now, if I want to take this thing and make it perp to this, go the other way, reverse. So all I did was I put this hole in there. Now, of course, anything that happens to this hole is automatically happening to that, because that's a linked copy. You with me on that, Brian?
Absolutely. Yep. That's interesting. Yeah, I was kind of hoping that when you go to hit the size, it has that function that you could say with that FX, you hit it the function. And then make it equal to another feature. That's what I was trying to figure out, but because it does work that way in other.
You know what I've done? I've taken note of what you've asked, Brian, and I'm going to come up with an example for you. You can actually do that, and I don't want to get into that today because I've got a lot to cover. But what Blake was talking about is that it is really possible to look at where all, show me all the parameters, everything that, any of these cylinders that are created. I haven't used any parameters yet, but if I did, I can make them, I can actually in this parameter table, make one thing equal to another in much the same way that you're asking, or I can describe a relationship Brian, between this hole perhaps and this front face that says, okay, if this changes, then that front face needs to change and so on. And we do have a lot of that kind of capability built in with the parameterization. And you know what? I'm going to get into, and Blake is quite right. That's, if these webinars are, if you guys like what we're doing and like what we're showing, then we intend to do this at least once a month, to get together for a few hours with and it's free of charge, where people can just come in and say, hey, how do I do this or how to do that? This is the very first one where I'm going to be sticking with real basics just to get, you know, so you can see it. And then, you know, another couple weeks from now, you say, I'm going to be doing one on design variation and more advanced things, which I think will be really, really cool. And be aware, every single person here, I want you to hear one message from me. I'm going to put my funny face up there so you can actually see me on the screen. If you have, this is just, you know, I'm just trying to introduce you to lots of different ideas and to make you aware that there's a group of people who are dedicated to making this work for you. So please, this is just today's seminar. After, you know, after the seminar is over, if you've got further questions, email, call, you know, if you want one-on-one help, that's what we're here for. So, you know, I just want you to really understand that this is only to introduce some new ideas, but please be aware that we're going to help you as much as we can. And this is just the start. So let me, if I may, I want to move on to one new thing. I want to talk a little bit about sketching, because I want to, you know, I'm not going to go into great detail on sketching, but I want you to see something that I think is really important. Give me a new scene. Oh, and by the way, this is taking my default Bobby scene. Every time I ask for a new scene using the button, I'm going to show this to you right here. Oh, where'd you go? I don't want you up. Come here. I want you up. Every time I go, if I use, and I'm trying to just draw so you all can see, if I use this, this one says use my default scene. If I don't want to use the default scene, then use the next one over here, which is this, because what that'll do is it will bring up the original, you know, if I want to now switch to a metric part, I can do that. And I'm actually going to switch to a metric part just for those of you who do work with metric. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to show you, let's look at a gray datum, okay, and what this actually means. Gray datum, and you look at, oh, there's the datum browser, so that as I'm working, the coordinate systems are showing for me. As you all know, if I don't want to see them, turn them off, turn them on, they're available, okay? The reason I wanted to show that to y'all is because I wanted you to be aware that there are sometimes things in here which you don't know how to do. You know, I don't know how to do. For example, I don't really know how to do a spin. And one of the things that bugs me is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say, Bobby, I want to learn how to do a spin. I'm going to come in here, create a new standalone part. And now I've got lots of things and I don't know what to do. Honestly, and I'm being totally open with you. I don't know what the what's it asking me to do right now. It's sitting here and I'm lost. I knew I wanted to create a spin shape. Well, I don't work that way. What I do is I'm going to come in here and grab a spin. There it is. I know I got one that's already created for me. And because it's already created, I happen to know that that spin was created using a cross section. And anytime I want, I'll come in here and look at the cross section. And of course, gosh, I don't like the way this cross section looks. So I'm going to come in and say, fillet this. Oh, hey, Blake, are you still there?
I'm still here. What's going on?
If I want to create a fillet, like right now, you know, it's doing this draggy thing.
Yeah.
Can you actually show me how to fillet that? You know, I want to put a fillet on all 4 radii.
Okay.
And I want to.
Do you have a dimension?
Yeah, 1/2 mil. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. So you lock the radius. Yeah.
You can lock it and then just click the edges.
Oh. All right, that was very cool what you just did. Thank you for that. All right.
Yep, no
By the
problem.
way, folks, I'm not afraid to ask ever. I'm taking the mouse back, young man, if I can find it in one of my 4 screens. So what I just did was interesting, and I want the default for the filleting on a sketch was that the radius wasn't locked. And so when I picked on an edge, it allowed me to do this thing, but I'm like, it's killing me. I'm getting this bounce back effect that I don't really like, and that's not what I wanted. So again, coming in, fillet. Oh, I love that. Thank you. Lock the radius. Now, there is no way to select in a box, right? That would be cool. Done. And why am I doing this? Well, because somebody said to me that they don't know how to do a spin, and I needed to spin this very odd shape. And I'm going to trim. And I'm just showing you, by the way, the sketching I'm showing you is unconstrained. I'm actually not constraining this at all. I'm just, looking at it. And I am going to escape and select this guy and use the TriBall. I'm going to move him up. Oh. Is there a way to move this easily? Do I use the TriBall? Just use this.
Are you trying to move?
The whole sketch out.
You trying to move the whole sketch, like say the origin or something? You would use the move command. Yeah, that's right.
So if I move it, so I've done this. Oh, I've selected the entities.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things you can do when you're doing a fillet, if you use the right mouse button, it'll allow you to put the fillet in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Right mouse button. If you have a right mouse button on pulling any of these features out, it'll automatically take you to an edit.
Tell me what you mean, Joe.
Right mouse button and pull it. Right mouse button. Put in fillet.
Oh, sorry.
Grab fillet. Grab the fillet. Now with the right mouse button, pull it in.
Sorry, man.
Now you can edit it.
Oh, very cool.
And you can do that with virtually every 2D entity, like in a radius. Just throw a radius out there. Use your center radius and go out in free space.
I will. I like that. I like what you showed me. That's really cool. Or I can do it this way, which is just left mouse button. So if I just grab, and I appreciate this. So center radius out in space. Yeah.
No. Put it out with the right mouse button.
Oh, I remember. And now when I do this, it brings up, oh yeah. And the reason I like doing that, I remember what you showed me once, that if I'm putting in a polyline like this, if I do this and I use the right mouse button, it brings up this, and the slope should be, whatever it may be,
exactly.
I don't care, 150.
That makes everything so simple, so simple. And in fact, you go to other products with them. Well, I was wondering, asking Brian whether he was talking about sketching when they start telling you matching the different circles. But when you get into sketching into other products, they don't allow you to put in a line. They make you put the line in and then put a dimension on that line, which is really sort of awkward. In my viewpoint.
Really interesting. Now, I want you to all understand something here. I'm in a sketch mode. This is what we call streamlined sketching. The fact is, I'm not worrying about constraints right now. I have full ability to constrain the entire thing, but I'm not really worried about that right now. What I'm really doing is just drawing the geometry that I need. And what it allows me to do is the following. Come in, give me this center radius. And I love what you just showed me again, Joe. I left mouse click to get this. And when I right mouse click, it gives me the actual box so I can come in and do that kind of work. And why am I doing this? The reason I'm doing all this, if I show y'all, and just escape for a moment, there was the original part that I created, remember? So we're trying to learn how to do a spin. When I finish, what it's now done, as you can see, is there's the way that I can create a spin. So what I'm trying to show y'all is not, You know, you can try to learn how to, and this is especially for the newcomers that are learning how to use the product. Our streamlined sketching mode, any of these things that are built here, doesn't matter what they are, whether an ellipse or a slot, if I bring it in, you know, this kind of idea, I have the full ability always to come in and say, how did he create that? How was this slot created? And at any time, I don't like the way he did it. You know, I'm going to delete that. And by the way, so, you know, it's showing me everything. I can hide it over here. And now I just come in and say 2 points. I want this slot to look a little different, you know, this way, and done. And now I've taken an original feature and, as you can see, changed it. So when I was first learning this product, I found it really easy for me to come in and say, what are all these shapes? How did they create all these shapes? And can I go in myself and alter what was created to suit something that I'm working on? Or more importantly, to teach myself how to work with these different things that we're seeing here, whatever they may be. So that's kind of an important thing. The second thing is this drag and drop, because what I'm showing you is really drag and drop modeling and streamlined sketching. All of the sketching can be used for really pretty marvelous things. And as an example, I'm going to go right back into our starter and say, bring me in a block. And I'm going to use something very simple here. If somebody said they want to sketch, here's a really neat idea. I just want to sketch on this shape. Yes, sketch on this shape right there. Good, that's what I want. Let's start the sketch. And now show me my part. And of course, now I can actually use different parts of this. I can say, you know what? I need to grab, and this is something, I'll show it to you here. I need to grab something from 3D space and bring it into 2D space. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to say, okay, project this line and this line. Perfect. I'm actually going to, you know, I might want to use that line for whatever reason, or if I'm not even interested in using that geometry, I'm just going to do exactly what Joe said a moment ago. I'm going to start up clear here. I'm going to come down like this. And this time I'm going to say, oh, good. The slope, I get whatever these things are. I'm being very goofy about my sketching right now. Why? Because I created this sketch, and what might I want to do with it? Well, what can you do with the sketch? I don't know. It's over here. I can extrude. And this brings up this night, you know, remove material from this part. So I just touch it. And that's great. Done. Oh, darn, it went the wrong direction. And of course, you could reverse it or just grab these handles and pull through. And so I now used a streamlined sketch to just pull a face off here. So that idea of streamlined sketching without, you know, projecting edges, using parts of a piece, we have all that kind of geometry that you can work with. There's wonderful examples of what you can do, and that's why I'm going to show this to you on the screen before I run out of time. But there's great examples, as I said, on our partner, on Joe's website, that give you some really good. And for those of you that want to, you know, if you really want to understand more complex sketching, may the force be with you. It's something that we do extremely well, and I would happily provide this information to anyone who's interested looking at it. So I want to get into the last, or the not quite the last part of this, but are there any questions on sketching right now before I go on? Because I see I'm using more time than I should have really, but as long as you're all interested, I'm going to still keep going because I've got a couple more things that I need to cover for you, and then we'll open the session up for everybody.
Bob, this is Matt. Sorry to jump in. Can I ask some real quick question here? So sketches, can they be saved for future use just like shapes in IronCAD? I know it's kind of a basic question, but
what's the answer to that, Blake?
Yeah, you can save the sketch. When you have two sketching formats. You have a independent sketching format where you can bring in DXF and edit them, and you also have the extrude wizard, which instantly turns into an extrusion. it has an option to save that sketch, copy it. So you always have the sketches you have if you want. Otherwise they'll consume them. You can have them or not consume them.
Right, and you also can save them to the catalog too if you would like. Just drag and drop it in from your scene browser.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking. Just like a shape. So just like a solid shape, you can drag it into the catalog. You can do that with a sketch as well.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer that question, I think it's a really good one. I appreciate that. If I do a sketch on an XY plane and I don't really care, just go ahead. And now whatever it may be, whatever this sketch is, I'm going to put in a center and a radius. And I love what Joe gave me, because this idea that I come in here, no, I want it to be 0.5, making a real little thing here. And then maybe just a rectangle that's going to be, oh, I don't know. We'll do a little keyway or something and trim this. And now, I'm just trimming. I'm just normal sketch stuff. And by the way, I mean, for anyone who is interested, I might as well just go there right now. If you live in the world of parametrics, all of that is available to you. I could say I want this fixed right here. That circle is now fixed. I want the distance, I want this always to be a horizontal line. Ooh, what did I just do? Undo that. Oh, I'm going to lock that is perpendicular, lock that, and lock this one as well. So I want those to stay perp. That's great. And now I want a smart dimension on this, I believe. Can I do that? From here to here. That's a smart dimension. Make that 0.5. Can I? Oh, beautiful. Okay. And I need one more smart dimension from here to here. And you know what? Yeah, I don't care. Just leave that. And if I felt like keeping going on this, I could get it so that it would all be a completely constrained sketch. But something else has happened right now. Just so you know, we have parameters that show up, and this will be in a future webinar. I'll show you again how you can use these parameters to create family of parts, different parts. But what Matt's question was, and I think it's a really good one, is this idea that, if I go to my IronCAD USA and can I just pick this sketch up and do this? There you go, a 2D profile. So at any time, I might be able to say, get rid of you, delete you, come in, grab this, and that's big, and then grab my little profile in here, put that profile, move it over. And now I've got a profile, which is, oh, this is actually a silly profile, because what they said is this actually needs to extrude that way. And so if I come in and the profile is highlighted, what can I do with the profile? I can extrude. I want to remove material from this part, dragging it out, say, okay. And you'll notice I'm not being real careful, because I just wanted this, sorry. I wanted to be able to grab this and just pull it all the way through. And now I've used that sketch and even put it through on an angle. And it's saved forever and ever. You cool with that, Matt?
Yes, thank you.
No worries. And I believe you'll notice what happened, folks. I deleted the sketch, but now the original parameters that were in that sketch are now still here. So as I say, for a later work, you'll be able to use a lot of this kind of work for that. So we just did that sketch. I'm going to leave it there, kind of like it. And something happened for my newcomers, beginners. I want you to see something. I'm going to undo so you can see. We're going to undo. There, it's flat. Now notice there's a 2D profile here. It says it's a separate profile. If I come in and say, well, I want to use that profile to extrude and remove material, or say add material. Yeah, I want to add material here. I want to add to this part, and I want to add a 1/4 inch. All right. Now I want you to notice that there's something really interesting about this profile behavior. And it's located over here and over here. I can consume the existing profile so that the profile becomes part of the extrude feature, or I can copy it and leave it there. So when I do that, I say, okay, go ahead, do that. I've created this little guy here. Why? Because it left it alone. See that? So that was left alone. Matt, it's over here, it's left alone here, and it's part of this extrude. You getting the difference?
Yes, very good.
Okay, and of course those distances now are again part of, see, now the sketch, those parameters that I use, they're here, they're available for me on the screen. And I forget who, I think it was you, Brian, who asked that. You know, these are what I'll get at a later date, that we've got some pretty cool capability. And you'll notice there was the original, so I still have the ability to go in there and change those and do other things as well. So, by the way, what I'm working on right now is, you know, kind of an assembly mode. And I really appreciate your question, Matt, because it shows me that, well, what I just did, I'm gonna do a quick assembly for y'all, because remember, what we're looking at is working with geometry, sketching, drag and drop, and direct edit. And gosh, you just came up with, I love these sessions that do this. But let me come into what else, you know, these shapes, this drag and drop. So you just saw me drag and drop a profile and put a profile on there, but I can use this not just for creating new geometry, I can use this also for actually do assembly modeling. And for those of you who have seen this before, here's a quick one. Reset that TriBall to the anchor. Actually, no, I want this TriBall. And if anyone's interested in learning more about the TriBall, we did a TriBall webinar yesterday that will be posted after this on the IronCAD USA site. So take this to a point, and now move this point to a point right here. Okay, now I'm going to undo that because Joe taught me something that I thought was really neat. And if I want to move this TriBall around the screen, as you can see, kind of neat, but I actually wanted at the center of this face here, at the center of the line. Well, right click, whenever you say find an edge, no matter where I pick on the edge, it will take it to the midpoint of the edge. That's really useful, because there are times where I can say, I want this TriBall, you know, to be on this edge right down here, and it will place that part directly. Okay, that's kind of a neat way to work. So we're using drag and drop modeling to create this particular assembly. And as I showed yesterday, the TriBall is extremely useful. Unlock the TriBall, and as Matthew knows, I'm using my Mamba mouse to just, you know, put this thing in and then create a mirror copy of this on the other side that is linked to this. And of course, using that, I can use it. We're doing it very fast. Anyone who's done any assembly modeling in another package will see I'm not really worried about how, you know, I've got the TriBall that helps me. If these things aren't in the right position, I can simply use the TriBall and say, move along this line and place this point right at the center of that circle. And I happen to know that puts the shaft exactly in the right place. So I'm creating an assembly. Really neat. That lets me do something else. Because I'm running out of time, I'm not going to finish this assembly because I want to get into one last thing before we move on. And that is a bulk drawing. For those of you who haven't worked with the bulk drawing capability, it's remarkable. And so I'm going to come in here, say, I've now created an assembly. I made a change to this part. I put in these two parts. I put this part here. I haven't constrained them yet. Haven't done any mechanisms. I want to create a drawing. Save it. I'm going to call this one Charlie, naming it after Charlie. I see your name up there, Charlie, so I'm going to name it after you. And this is now Charlie's file. And I'm going to go in and say, I want to do a bulk drawing. And what does that mean? That says, Bobby, you want a picture of the scene? Yeah, but I also want a picture of this, you know, the base, the profile. Do I want the profile? No, I don't want the profile, but I do want to see this bracket, and I do want to see this shaft. And with kind of that work, I've now gone out. And it's really a neat feature. This has saved huge time. I've created this, which is double-clicked. There's the actual You can see what I'm just cleaning this up a little bit. Oh, and by the way, for those of you who work with the drawing, there's lots of little features that you've got as well, just like before. Show me the grid, don't show me the grid, change the units of the grid, so everything that you would need to do, if I want to make sure that these things snap correctly, I can do all of that kind of work. But it created this drawing for me very quickly. It created the drawing of the base sheet, created the drawing of this, all in virtually one keystroke. So really this drag and drop modeling, this idea that we can use drag and drop to create geometry very fast is certainly a magnificent way to work. Now let's just look at one last thing, direct editing. Really, and this is working with geometry, the direct edit stuff, and I'm really excited to show that to you. We have a complete webinar on direct editing, but it means essentially that any geometry that I open up, whatever I've been working on, let me go and see. Yeah, I happen to know that this particular part, and for those of you who were present yesterday, this is a non-native. This came from somewhere else. It was very similar to, for example, this part that I grabbed from a catalog online, for those who saw it yesterday. And, our capabilities for direct edit are pretty magnificent. The idea that we can just grab any geometry and make changes to that geometry in a way that's quite remarkable, because it's not just, it's not just taking the geometry and changing it, but we can even change sort of and I've not done what I'm about to do. So I'm trying to see, will this allow me to do this? Oh, it is actually. These are different pieces. So all of these different things, if I want to offset and change, I'm just going to try and see what happens when I just drag this. No, some of these, it took it apart. So some of it will work. Some of it may not work. It's kind of a goofy sort of, and I haven't tried that before, but I tore that one apart. So, I'm glad. And these are, I always try this with different files that aren't my files and see how well it works. And, for those of you that were with me yesterday, the idea that I can pick on this face and just do something like this is kind of neat. And there was a direct edit on that, or using the TriBall and the idea that I might want to just pick this up and drag it out and rebuild the perpendicular walls. And of course, these come out as well. So you can see this direct edit. The examples I'm showing you are perhaps not the best. By the way, these wonderful keyboard keys, isometric, double click, it's on the screen. For those of you who were with me yesterday and you saw the idea that I can pick up any part of these, and here's a neat idea. I want to highlight down here. This is the pick selection filter, okay? And that's important for y'all to know, because if I point at this, well, it picks the whole part. If I point at it again, there's the next part. I'm going down through well, I don't want to have to click that many times, so I'm just going to say face. I just want to highlight, pick in a box, all these faces, shift select this one, shift select the inside. And this is, and Matt Tuckfield, who's actually part of this webinar right now, he's worked in other products where you need to do this in CAM a lot. The idea that you're taking something and removing it, or you're taking something and actually saying, I need to move this part because they've had a change. I don't have the original SolidWorks geometry. This came from, I don't have it. All they did is give me a dumb solid. So we're able to take this dumb solid and simply say, rotate it around as I did yesterday, 45 degrees, but rebuild all the perpendicular faces. Not only does it rotate it, but it moves the whole, everything is correct. So it rebuilt all of this geometry. And that brings me back to this idea. So there are 3 specific ways that you can work in IronCAD. Number 1, drag and drop that you've seen. Number 2, sketching. And number 3, the direct edit. We've looked at streamlined sketching, unconstrained sketching, and everything I've done. I have created constraints, and someone may ask me, well, Bobby, you know, why do you do that? If I'm going to build a family or parts that are going to be used again and again. You look, and now this is an area I've shown you some example of Intellishapes, but folks, you really need to drill down. These are far beyond primitives. They're incredibly smart. And I'm going to show you one example, and then I'm going to get off it because I don't want to bore y'all. But if you think that they're like, and Matt, Matt Tuckfield, I'm specifically addressing you because I know that you work in other products that have something that may be considered a primitive. It's not even close to what an IntelliShape is. And the reason I want you to see that is you will become apparent in a moment. So I'm going to go into a 3D scene real quick. This could be Bobby's scene. And I'm just going to start out with a very simple shape. And this to me is one of the most fascinating things that you can do, just a simple cylinder. And it's an IntelliShape, you know, and so there's the intelligent shape. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at it. What are the properties of an IntelliShape? Oh, all right, this doesn't mean much to it. It's called a cylinder and links to shape in the scene. And by the way, Brian, I think it was you, links to shapes in the scene. There's a way to actually link it, and we'll talk more about that. What is the size box? How does it actually work? There's lots of parameters. I'm going to be having a course specifically on this, so I don't want to go into too much detail. I'm going to be having a course on anchors and how they work, positioning, that kind of thing. But this is really important. This is an IntelliShape. And what I'm going to do is say, I want to shell this, and you know, I'm going to, the wall thickness is 30 thou, right? I'm an inch. Okay, good. And do I want the start section open and the end? Yes. So let's just see what I did here. Oh, so the first thing I did was create a shell IntelliShape that in fact automatically shelled itself. That's interesting. What else can we do with that IntelliShape? Well, it can have lots of other things. So shelling was one of those things. It could have formulas and all sorts of magical things. What about the surfaces? Well, do I want to tape? Do I want to reshape it? Do I want to put a cap? Do I want to put a taper? Do I want to match it to some other shape? And that will be, this is way more advanced than I want to get into today, but I love the bevels. So what I'm going to say is all the shelled edges, whatever they are, I want to put a little, blend, and it's going to be a, I don't know, 0625. Will that work? Let me see, apply that, go. Did I get that? Maybe I did something wrong. Let's see. Did I? Blake, if you see me going crazy, you just tell me. Oh, I made it 30 thou. I'm making it too big. That's why. Blend that and do the same thing on this. Well, why not all edges? All edges blend, give me, I don't care, 10 thou. That's great. And make sure these other are turned off. I don't want that one. So all edges. Do you know why that?
Intersecting edges. Anything that's intersecting.
What's that?
Do it. So do the end and to the start and end. Just do those two.
Okay. Turn this off, and you say start and end.
Yeah.
Do a start blend of 0.01 and an end of 0.01. Okay, apply that. There we go. Thank you. So why am I doing this? I got a little bevel on the outside here, a little bevel on the outside there. I could put it. So before I go any further, what else might I want to do? What are these properties? Extrudes, interactions, how it works, all the rest of that. Why is that important? I had a fellow yesterday asking about putting bevels on the end of his, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But what this allows me to do is now, okay, I'm going to call this Blake, help me. So I'm giving an exception, you know, a great name and putting it in here. And now anytime in the future, I can be working on parts and come in here and go, okay, gosh, I need to put in this. I want it to go right there. And what has happened? I've actually got an IntelliShape that lets me change, alter, modify, you name it. And look what's happened. It's already shelled. It's got everything that I need done. And if I want to push it into this part, make it part of it, great. And now, of course, it's part of, oh, Blake, help me. I didn't make it part of, actually, that was really interesting. That it's a separate part. I could have done this. I'll do 2 examples to show you all. So there's a separate part with all that, but now if I grab this, let me do that one. You'll notice what it is different about this one is this one became part, because I just used the feature. It became part of this design. So I've actually created, and of course the rest of it got consumed, by the way, and if anyone wants to see that, it's kind of really neat. I'll go into tools just to show you an advanced use section. Give me a section parallel to this face right here. And so what happened with the, anyone who has seen this before, it was consumed and became, there's my cylinder, and you can see I was able to, and you've got our little fillet up on top, which is kind of neat that we did. So we took a very simple IntelliShape and we made it pretty incredible, okay? A, as its own standalone part, or B, as something that would be used with, as a feature in another part. So it kind of really neat. And by the way, if I stick it all the way through, there you go. I've got this all the way through, and that's actually neat. There's a reason why I'm really excited to show you what I just did here, because I cut through a solid part with the shell, and it actually used that. So it actually shelled through, and top and bottom has my little fillet that we put in as part of the feature. So jumping back real quick to my Intellishapes Deconstructed, believe me when I say there's huge power in the IntelliShapes and what you can do with them. Finally, this direct editing, I've shown you some of that, and there's a complete webinar on that. And there's also a webinar on the IronCAD TriBall. So these are all available. You've seen every single one of these. The feature modeling is available on our IronCAD USA webinars page. The assembly design that you've seen, how to, and Matt Tuckfield, if you're interested in looking more about how you can use profiles, great, check out this cut and paste, because we actually cut and paste a profile between different parts, which is neat.
Excellent.
Okay, so kind of a neat one there. So I'm going to open this up because I've gone exactly 2 hours and 15 minutes, and this is an absolutely brilliant time for you folks to ask questions. I can see just for a moment, let me just see. I know that Charlie, not Charlie, who's there? Is that David? I'm trying to, there's a bunch of questions. Matthew, I see your questions. The PMI, one of the things I know about PMI, and I'd like to actually do a little more work in PMI at one point, if I grab this. I believe the PMI works in a rather unique way. Let me just, and by the way, the sectioning that you guys are seeing me doing, it's a really magnificent feature that IronCAD has. I really love being able to work with the sectioning. And there's a number of different modes that you can work on. The precise mode actually allows you to create real geometry that you can actually pick on that geometry, which is kind of cool if you need to, and make changes live with the sectioning. And if you don't want to see it, it's easy just to say, I'm keeping it around. I don't want to delete it, but I'm going to suppress it, meaning that it's there, but it's not just hidden, it's forgotten by the system. The commands are there, but it's suppressed in the history tree. So one of the questions was the PMI, and I do want to go back to that because PMI is I've had a lot of questions. Yes, there's a full PMI And the interesting thing about the way PMI works, if I come in, let me just see something here. Let me just do that. Once you've actually done one, and I did a silly one right now because I wanted you to all see that PMI is divided up into different views. There are rules and structure behind product. What is it? Product manufacturing information, I believe. But if I come into this PMI, what have I got here? Let me open this up. I put in a silly linear dimension that I'm going to delete, but it came under the view XY. Now, each one of these views, as you can see, I'm double clicking on them. So in theory, when I'm putting in PMI on the XY plane, this would be set as active. And I think that's the way I got to do this. Let me just see. Yes, set it active. So now I am actually working in this plane, and that's what's important to know, so that if I put geometry, dimensions, and I come in and say, well, how big is this? It's going to be on this particular plane. Or if I say, okay, from this point to this point, it's on this particular plane. And so on. And if I'm done, that lives, as you can see, in the XY. And if I double click on the XY, it will automatically go to that view. If I want to put geometry into the YZ plane, I'll go to it and activate, I'll activate, set it as active, okay? And now any of the dimensions that are coming in here, any of the linear dimensions that I might say, oh, I don't know, go from this point to this point, and hey, where are you? Why aren't you, you goofy little guy, where are you? Did I do that right? I am view, double click. Yeah, I'm there. Let me just make sure I get this right. Oh, the other thing, folks, that I've noticed has sometimes given me a little trouble with PMI is make sure you turn your perspective on and off. And I'm just going to show that to you down here. So again, that's another one of those little keys that can kind of mess you up a little bit, because you think you're picking on something that you're not, and that's this one right here. So it's again, you're not architects. If you're working in a mechanical scenario, then you want this, and you'll see it even more sharply, when things are, see that I'm actually seeing it as if it were there, but it's not. Another quick little idea that I wanted to show you, because I use this quite a bit too. If I want to look at a particular face, use that F7 key. That's super powerful. Anytime you're looking at geometry, F7 will, I want to look at the front or the side, or I'm going to go look at this view. Good. And I don't want to spend too much time in here. If it doesn't work quickly and easily, I'm not good. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. So quick PMI for that. Good enough. I'm going to get out of there. And notice now that these dimensions live on the XY PMI. This one lives on that YZ, and you can make different ones visible. And I'm going to just do one more as an answer here. And what might I want to be able to see here? And I'm being goofy, but oh, go from here to here just so I can see it. I don't know. Done. And so now I'm the same thing. I'm adding it, and it's being controlled under each of these views. So people will need to see this directly, and this. Okay, that's a quick way of doing that kind of work as an answer. I know that was. Did that answer your question? Who was that? David? Let me see if David's here, but I've blanked everybody. So that was a question from earlier that David had. We'll see if there's other. That was questions about automated CAM package that we would recommend. Officially, IronCAD recommends SpurtCam, but most of the IronCAD USA group represents ZW3D, which is an excellent CAM package. So we integrate very well with IronCAD. Just looking through the rest of the questions here. David, yep, he wanted to look in some IC mechanical, but I see David's left. So I'll contact him and come back to him a little bit later. Let me see, Matthew, what else? Matthew, Bobby, can you make an example with sheet metal box and a pyramid hopper? Yes, you and I will do that so it auto drops in the origin. Actually, Matthew, I want to teach you about anchors and things like that, which is more complex than I have time for today. But be aware, I'll actually teach you one-on-one, or if anyone else is interested in a kind of an advanced course on, let me just see if I've got the tank example. Here it is. So this is an example, Matthew, of these creatures that I'm putting on the screen right now. This is how Blake was talking about using parameters to create different sizes of parts. So for example, I'm going to use the third one, and these parameters have created this, if you will, this tank. And of course, that if I grab a ring and put the ring, how does it know where to go? Okay, well, go ahead. It knows, Matthew, not only does it auto drop, but it auto sized. So, you know, if I look at the part and say, you know, show me the parameters, these parameters are all set up so that they become equal to each other. And it's actually quite simple to do that. And if I put a lid on it, you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm not coming real close. It's putting these things into position in a really neat way. You know, grab a bottom, put the bottom on, you know, and it's auto dropping and auto sizing. Okay. So, and this is something, I'll go ahead, put a leg assembly on there. Yeah, grab that, done. And if anyone's interested, you know, this idea that look at the parameters and I can go look at, you know, how many legs it's supposed to have. You know, leg assembly, you know, I just got to see where it says 3 or something. If anyone else sees it before me, there we go. Is that it? Well, rather than spend all my time looking for this silly parameter, you'll just have to believe me that I can change for now. But you'll see that's a big part of what we do, and there's a lot of intelligence that's built into these drag and drop things. And just so you understand, what I'm working on here is you can do this very, very easily with these shapes, because these shapes come replete with something called an anchor. And these anchors can have something that's quite magnificent called, you know, attachment points. And we'll talk more about attachment. Attachment points are an advanced feature that are, I forget where the heck they are. Where are the attachment points, Blake? I forget. Under tools? Yeah, intelligence. We can add intelligence here where I can actually add an attachment point, you know, to this part. And then that attachment point can have really interesting information in it where I could say, okay, this is Kelco. It's a Kelco attachment point. There's definitely male. And then I can put all sorts of different information there. And then whenever I go and grab, say, a slot, now I haven't set this up yet, it would automatically know that it needs to attach to this point. So there's lots of intelligence that's built in there. And that was a great question.
Bobby, I should mention, though, that if you use a TriBall, you can create attachment points based on the TriBall location, just in case it's not on the surface of a part.
Oh, that's really cool.
Point. If you want to put it like a hole or something like that, you would use the TriBall to do that.
Really? So if I put a hole in this part, like this, and put the TriBall there?
Well, do it for the part level instead of the feature level. So go up to the part level, and then use the TriBall, move it to that center.
By the way, folks, anyone working with the TriBall, I love this little feature that you hold down this and it made it perp, which is kind of neat, and move this. And when I said made it perp, what I mean by that, if you all look over here, you can see the Z axis down there. Z is blue, or if you're Canadian, it's Z. I'm gonna move this now and go to this center point right here and lock it. And now I want to create an attachment point. Oh, sweet. And call it, I'm just calling it connector 1. I don't care. Oh, that's very neat. Okay. So now I have a connector here. And if I'm with you, you know what, I'm gonna just show this real quick. I'm gonna take this and put this in here. Oh, I don't want this. I want to get rid of that. Oh, you monstrous thing. There's that one. I need to get rid of Kelco. Do you know how to grab that one and just get rid of it really easily?
Easiest way to get rid of attachment point would be to use Control Alt left click, and then you can select the attachment point as necessary. So,
oh, thank you.
If you have several of them on top of each other, it's also good to select from this list.
Oh, undo.
You might have deleted the entire part there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So Control, that's a good point because there's a bunch of things going on right there. Now, if I select it, oh, you're right. Okay, that was really cool. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So just real quick, I'm going to take this and this is my silly part 1, drop it into here. And we'll spend some time on this kind of work. That part now has an attachment point. If I bring it out and drop it there, what's going on? Why is that not hooking up?
Ensure you did the naming for the attachment points before you drop it out. So if you're doing like a male to female or just neutral to neutral, so go ahead and edit that attachment point. I didn't see you do it, but that's my bad. Click on the part first. There you go. Yep, there you go. Right click. So currently, right now, it's not paired. Yeah. So go ahead and
make it neutral. And then good. Just so you know, I've got that sitting on the screen. I'm just going to this is an interesting idea, folks. I'm going to cover this in a more advanced class. I'm actually going to edit this one in its own space because I realize that this attachment point, which is sitting right there, I want to set the name and make sure it's the same. So, you know, the same, and I'm just going to leave it like that now. And I'm actually exiting it and I'm just saving the catalog part in the catalog so that now if I drop this out, notice what it just did? I don't even have to think anymore. You see that, Matthew? Because now, no matter what happens, if I have multiple parts on there, I can, you know, anywhere close, it will automatically drop directly on that.
So like, let's say the left block was like your cabinet, and then you have the right block, which is your hopper. You could just set the anchor point to the bottom of the cabinet, and you can customize the hoppers as much as you want.
Of course, and that was the whole idea. That, you know, I'm just showing you with a very, very, very simple part, but this could be anything. That, you know, the fact that this is, you know, this part, it could be absolutely anything that we wanted it to be. And as I'm working on this kind of thing, you know, I can make it as complex, as simple. It could have all sorts of different things, you know, attached to it, whatever. It's your, you know what, and now I've got it, you know, and I can show you how that works. You know, I'd like to do that with you just as a, you know, banging it, it's putting it in the, and you can even have multiple points. You know, that's the other thing too, where when it comes in, it says, which way do you want to orient or align? And that's a lot of what we do. And I don't want to go into much detail on this, but that's the whole idea behind how you would do custom piping and things like that. You know, I have people that do this kind of thing where they, you know, bring in a silly pipe, you know, what size, I don't really care. Yeah, you know, there's a silly pipe that I'm doing it. And now, you know, put a collar on that, bang, you know, that kind of idea. Or, you know, I didn't want to go on that way, I want it to go on this way, and you know, which way do I want it to go? Do I want it around that, oh, that end, which end do I want it? Do I want it facing that way? Do I want it facing that way, this way, that, there? That, all that kind of idea. There's so much that you can do with these attachment points, and they're really, really cool. Okay? And I will teach you. I'll teach you how to do that. And it's really not very hard. And the important thing is, once you get your stuff set up, it's just simply that idea of coming back and you know, I can come in and say, I've built some amazing parts where I don't even need to be very accurate with how I'm dropping things. You know, as I said before, you know, I put this one in, double click on it. No, I don't think I have any other. There it is. And if I drag another one on top of it, I got two of them, one on top. You know, as you can see, and it's really easy for me to do that kind of thing. Before I lose everybody, I just want to make sure that you get, there are some other things I've actually have overstayed. I want to run another tips and tricks. I'm going to save this for a future session. I'm losing my voice. But there's, you know, a number of tips and tricks that I want to do in an advanced course that I'd love to do with all of you. And I'll invite you to that within a couple of weeks. And there's, you know, there's some very, very clever things, you know, we just simple things like, you know, we talked about TriBall yesterday. This idea that as I'm working, I didn't want to do that. As I'm working with things like this, you know, here's the job that Blake helped me with. So I'm going to say, oh, there's Blake's cylinder. You know what? I want this. Now watch what happens when I bring it in. I'm going to bring this. Remember we worked on this before? There's our little cylinder. You guys remember that guy that we put in here? That's cool. That's our little cylinder that we built, but I didn't really want it there. I want it down here. So now I've got to highlight that little fellow, and that's extra mouse clicks. I don't really want that. I don't want those extra mouse clicks. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go right into this little cylinder, and I'm going to say, hey, I want you to attach the TriBall when you drop. All right, cool. What does that mean? Put it here. Oh, TriBall is already there for me. Yeah, move this right here to this edge right there. That's where I want you. Cool. That's what I wanted to have happen. Perfect. And so now what I've done is I've done this thing and created my new little, this is my new part that we created. It's really weird, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, and we'll do more of those kinds of things. This is our group. You've got a really great guys. Go ahead, questions for sure.
You got Brian. Brian? He's not in here. He's one of the people who wanted to ask. So Bobby Fisher's with us in California.
Bobby Fisher. Those are all the tech guys.
Yeah, these are all the guys who are willing to talk to us.
So
we can call any of these people and be like, hey, we got a problem.
That's exactly right. These are all the people. That's why we're showing you who we are, wherever you are in the nation. My name's Bobby Fisher. I'm down here. You want to learn about IronCAD or you want to learn about ZW3 Cam? Go ahead.
Oh, nothing. I'm actually sitting with two of my coworkers who are checking out the program with me as well today, Bobby.
Excellent.
So we're all excited for sure.
Yeah, and remember again, anybody who wants to get in touch with us, give me a call. I'll put you in touch with the appropriate person, or call anybody on the screen. I'll make any of this. Everything that you're seeing today is going to be online. We're IronCAD USA.com, and you know we're going to do a lot more of these kind of things. We do about at least 2 webinars a month, and there's going to be a lot more to come. And we'll do webinars on sheet metal specifically. We're going to do application webinars for folks. So please do me all a favor. I would ask everyone who attended today, send me an email. You know, again, if you just take a quick note, I'm Bobby Fisher, and I was the guy that sent out the invite. So if you would send me an email back, I'd be very appreciative. Let me know what you thought of the webinar. Let me know what you'd like to see. So if you want to see a webinar on sheet metal design, if you want to see it, you know, on railing, on cabinet making, you name it, let me know, because I'll invite a bunch of people and you all benefit from the questions that different people ask. Any other specific questions I can answer today?
I have a question, Bobby. So IronCAD USA now are there any other languages that you guys offer? Like, let's say Spanish or
Absolutely. The product is in. Hey, Blake, you still here with me?
Yeah, hey there.
So what do you, I know we're available. Wir können perfektes Deutsch sprechen. Das geht einwandfrei. Oder I can do some Chinese, but I know it's available in German. I know it is available in Spanish too, isn't it?
We would have to grab you a localized version, but yes, we can offer different languages.
Correct. Yeah. And I know because the product is sold worldwide by a group of really cool resellers. lots of resources. So yeah, different languages, arcade, and there's also, I mean, I've seen actual Japanese language versions, and I've also seen training in those languages. The only difficulty with training, I think, English is actually, most of the documentation is done in English.
Excellent. Thank you. That answers my question.
My pleasure. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I really had a lot of fun today. If anyone wants to get in touch with us, as I say, you're entirely welcome. It has been my pleasure. And yeah, please let me know what you think. And I do want to do more. So if we'll prepare some wonderful things. And what you can also do is send me your problems. Send us your challenges. And that's really, because what we're all about is actually trying to solve these issues. So send us what you're working on that isn't working. And between Joe and Matt and Igor and myself and Blake and Kevin, we will absolutely be able to solve those for you. But in the meantime, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Please send me an email telling me what you thought and what you'd like to see. And with that, I'll sign off and thank you all for your attention. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Bobby. Take care.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Bobby.